December 29th, 1944, Mindoro, the Philippines. The air is thick, hot, humid, and terrified. On the ground at McGuire Field, 2,000 American engineers are trying to sleep. They are building airfields for the invasion of Luzon. They are exhausted, and they are waiting for the sirens. For 2 weeks, the Japanese have bombed them every single night. They come in the dark. Mitsubishi G4M bombers, Bettys, Nakajima Ki-49s, Helens. They fly low. They drop their payloads on the runway, on the fuel dumps, on the tents. Then they vanish into the black sky. The Americans have P-51 Mustangs, P-47 Thunderbolts, great daylight fighters. But at night, they are useless, blind. A pilot cannot shoot what he cannot see. The Japanese know this. Darkness is their armor. They own the night. But tonight, something is waiting for them. Sitting at the end of the dirt runway is a machine that looks like it crawled out of a nightmare. It is huge, 66-foot wingspan, twin booms jutting backward like the legs of a spider. Twin Pratt & Whitney R2800 engines, 2,000 horsepower each. Painted jet black, matte, no reflection. The Northrop P-61, the Black Widow. It is the first American aircraft designed solely for night combat. 4 20mm Hispano cannons mounted in the belly, fixed forward. 4 50-caliber machine guns in a remote-controlled dorsal turret. 800 rounds of ammunition, enough to kill a dozen bombers. But the guns are not the deadliest weapon aboard this aircraft. The nose is smooth, rounded, made of fiberglass instead of metal. Inside it, a parabolic dish rotates, spinning, sweeping, searching. The SCR-720 radar. It sends invisible pulses into the darkness, radio waves, microwaves. When they hit metal, an airplane, a bomber, they bounce back. The radar operator sees the return as a glowing blip on a circular screen. Range, bearing, altitude, all displayed in green phosphorescent light. The Japanese do not know this technology exists. They think night makes them safe. They are about to learn otherwise. In the cockpit sits Major Carroll C. Smith, 26 years old, 43 combat missions, 4 confirmed kills. He is calm, focused, but inside the pressure is crushing. 12 Japanese bombers are heading toward Mindoro. Smith has 1 P-61, 1 aircraft against 12 targets. If even 1 bomber gets through, American soldiers die. Engineers, mechanics, medics sleeping in tents. The airfield construction stops. The invasion of Luzon, scheduled for January 9th, gets delayed. More casualties, more death. Smith cannot let that happen. Behind him, separated by a bulkhead, sits Lieutenant Philip Porter, the radar operator. His world is different from Smith's. Smith looks out the canopy and sees only instruments. Porter looks at a screen and sees everything. The SCR-720 radar display is a circular scope 7 inches across. A glowing green grid. At the center, a bright dot, their own aircraft. Beyond it, the emptiness of the Philippine Sea. When a target appears, it shows as a small blip. Porter's job is to guide Smith toward that blip. Left 5 degrees. Climb to 8,000. Verbal corrections. Constant updates. Smith cannot see the enemy. He trusts Porter's voice. He trusts the radar. He trusts math. The intercom crackles. Engines running. Systems green. Radar active. Smith nods. He wraps his gloved hand around the throttle levers. 2 thick metal handles side by side. He pushes them forward. The R-2800 engines spool up. The sound is immense, a deep, guttural roar. 18 cylinders per engine, 36 total. The propellers bite the humid air. The P-61 shudders, then rolls. Crushed coral crunches under the tires. The runway is rough, unfinished. Engineers laid it 4 days ago. Smith holds the brakes until the engines hit takeoff power. Manifold pressure, 52 inches. RPM, 2,700. He releases the brakes. The Black Widow accelerates. Faster, faster. 70 knots, 90, 110. The nose lifts. The main wheels leave the ground. The jungle falls away beneath them. Smith pulls the landing gear lever. The wheels retract with a heavy clunk. The aircraft smooths out. They climb. 1,000 feet. 3,000. 5,000. The lights of McGuire Field disappear below. The last visual reference vanishes. Now there is only the instruments. The artificial horizon, a small gyroscope showing pitch and bank. The altimeter, spinning needles marking altitude. The airspeed indicator, 180 knots. The fuel gauge, 640 gallons, full tanks. And the compass. Heading, 030 degrees, northeast, toward the enemy. Outside the canopy, the darkness is absolute. No moon, heavy cloud cover. The kind of night where visual combat is impossible. But Smith is not fighting visually tonight. Porter's voice comes through the headset. Calm, professional. Radar is sweeping, clear so far. Smith levels off at 10,000 feet, reduces power to cruise settings. 28 inches manifold pressure, 2,300 RPM. The fuel flow drops. 120 gallons per hour. At this rate, they have 5 hours of flight time, but combat burns fuel faster. High-speed intercepts, hard turns, full throttle climbs. Each engagement costs 10, maybe 15% of the tanks. Smith does the math in his head. 4 intercepts, maybe 5. Then he has to land, or ditch in the ocean. He pushes the thought away. The green glow of the instrument panel reflects off his face. His eyes scan the dials, constantly, methodically. Altitude, airspeed, engine temperature, fuel. Everything is stable. Now they wait. Porter is watching his scope. The green sweep line rotates, once per second, searching. Somewhere out there the Japanese are coming, confident, arrogant. They think the darkness protects them. They are wrong. The Black Widow is in the sky, and it can see in the dark. Smith checks the gun switches. 4 toggles on the left side of the cockpit. Cannon 1, Cannon 2, Cannon 3, Cannon 4. All set to armed. The gun sight glows faintly. An illuminated reticle projected onto a piece of angled glass. A circle with a center dot. When the target fills that circle, Smith pulls the trigger. Simple. Clean. Lethal. He flexes his fingers inside his gloves, adjusts his grip on the control column, and waits. The radio is silent. No chatter, no contact reports, just the steady hum of the engines. Then, Porter's voice, sharp, immediate. "Contact, bearing 045, range 7 miles, altitude 8,000 feet. Smith's hand tightens on the throttle. "Roger, turning to intercept." The hunt has begun. Porter stares at the scope. The green sweep line rotates, once per second, hypnotic, steady. Then, a blip, small, faint. 7 miles away, bearing 045 degrees, altitude 8,000 feet. "Contact confirmed," Porter says. "Single aircraft, heading south." Smith banks the P-61 right. The twin booms slice through the darkness. He rolls out on heading 045. The compass needle settles. "Range?" Smith asks. 6 miles, closing." 6 miles. In daylight, a pilot could see that far, see the glint of metal, the shape of wings. But tonight, 6 miles might as well be 6,000. The only eyes that work belong to the radar. Porter adjusts the gain on his scope. The blip grows brighter. He can see the target's movement now. Slow, steady, heading 180 degrees, due south. Speed, 190 knots. A bomber, not a fighter. Too slow, too predictable. "Target is not maneuvering," Porter reports. "Straight and level." Smith nods to himself. The Japanese pilot has no idea he is being hunted. No radar warning receiver, no tail warning radar. Just darkness, and the belief that darkness is enough. "Range 5 miles, Porter says. "Maintain heading." Smith checks his fuel. 620 gallons. 20 gallons burned on the climb. Fuel flow is steady at 120 gallons per hour. 5 hours of fuel remaining. But not for long. He pushes the throttles forward. Manifold pressure climbs from 28 inches to 40. The engines respond immediately. The airspeed increases. 200 knots, 220, 250. Fuel flow jumps to 180 gallons per hour. The mathematics are brutal. Every minute at high speed costs 3 minutes of patrol time. But if he doesn't close quickly, the bomber reaches Mindoro, drops its payload, kills engineers. Speed is not optional. "Range 4 miles, Porter says. Smith can feel the tension in his body. His hands grip the control column. His eyes scan the instruments. Airspeed, altitude, heading. Everything has to be perfect. "Range 3 miles. Target is dead ahead. Same altitude." 3 miles. Still invisible. The darkness is absolute. Smith trusts the radar. He trusts Porter. He has no choice. "Range 2 miles. Porter's voice is calm, professional. He has done this before. 43 missions, dozens of intercepts. But tonight feels different. 12 targets, 1 aircraft. If they fail, people die. "Range 1 mile. Descend 200 feet. Smith eases the stick forward. The P-61's nose drops. The altimeter unwinds. 8,000 feet. 7,900. 7,800. He levels off. "Good. You are below and behind the target. Range 800 yards. 800 yards. Still nothing visible. Smith's eyes strain against the darkness, looking for anything, a shadow, a shape, a reflection. Nothing. "Range 700 yards. Porter's voice is steady, guiding, correcting. "Left 2 degrees. Smith adjusts. "Range 600 yards. Smith arms the cannons. 4 switches. Cannon 1. Cannon 2. Cannon 3. Cannon 4. Click, 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 click. The gun sight glows brighter, a circle with a center dot. "Range 500 yards. And then, Smith sees it. Not the aircraft, the exhaust flames. 2 faint orange glows, dim, flickering. The bomber's engines. A Mitsubishi G4M, Betty. He can see the silhouette now. Dark against slightly less dark sky. Twin engines, long fuselage, high tail, fragile, vulnerable. The Betty has no self-sealing fuel tanks. One burst will turn it into a fireball. "Visual contact," Smith says. Porter doesn't respond. His job is done. The rest is Smith's. Smith adjusts his position, slightly below the bomber, slightly behind. The cannons are belly-mounted, fixed forward. He has to aim the entire aircraft. He moves the control column gently, up, left, right, positioning. The bomber sits in the gun sight, centered. Range 400 yards. The Betty crew has no idea. They are flying straight and level, confident, safe. Smith's finger rests on the trigger. A red button on the control stick. He checks the range one more time. 350 yards. Close enough. He squeezes. The 4 20mm Hispano cannons fire simultaneously. The sound is deafening, even through the engine noise, even through the headset. Thump, 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 thump. Each cannon fires 12 rounds in 2 seconds. 48 high-explosive shells, traveling at 2,800 feet per second. Tracer rounds streak through the darkness, red lines drawn across the void. The shells hit the Betty's right wing. The fuel tank ruptures instantly. Fire. Not a small fire. An explosion. The entire right wing is engulfed in flames. Orange, yellow, white. The bomber rolls violently to the right. The nose drops. It enters a steep dive. Smith pulls back on the stick. He doesn't want to follow it down, doesn't want debris hitting his aircraft. He climbs, watches. The burning Betty falls through the darkness. The flames illuminate the clouds below. A brief, terrible light. Then impact. The bomber hits the ocean. The fireball extinguishes instantly, swallowed by the black water. Silence. Smith levels off at 10,000 feet. He checks his instruments. Fuel, 590 gallons. 30 gallons burned in the intercept. High-speed climb. Combat maneuvering. Time, 23:57 hours. 3 minutes before midnight. Porter's voice breaks the silence. "Good kill. Wreckage confirmed on radar. Contact lost." Smith doesn't celebrate. He does the math. 1 bomber down, 11 remaining. 30 gallons of fuel spent, 610 remaining. If every intercept costs 30 gallons, he can engage 4 more targets, 5 total. That leaves 7 bombers. 7 bombers reaching Mindoro. 7 payloads dropped on American positions. The mission is not over. "Continue search," Smith says. Porter adjusts the radar. The green sweep line rotates. Searching. Smith reduces power. 28 inches manifold pressure, 2300 RPM. Fuel flow drops back to 120 gallons per hour. He turns the P-61 south, toward Mindoro, toward the remaining bombers. Outside, the darkness is unchanged, absolute, impenetrable. But inside the Black Widow, the green glow of the radar continues to sweep. And somewhere ahead, 11 more targets are flying toward their deaths. Porter's voice crackles again. Contact! Bearing 170, range 8 miles, altitude 6,000 feet. Smith's jaw tightens. Roger. Turning to intercept. The fuel gauge reads 590 gallons. 1 down. 11 to go. Target 2 appears on Porter's scope at 0014. 14 minutes past midnight. Contact! Bearing 180, range 6 miles, altitude 6,000 feet. Smith banks the P-61 south, descends. The first kill felt surgical, clean. This one will be the same, and the one after, and the one after that. This is not combat. This is execution. The mathematics are brutal. Smith calculates as he flies. 12 bombers inbound. He has destroyed 1. 11 remain. If he engages 4 targets, 8 bombers get through. If he engages 8, 4 get through. The math never works in his favor. But even stopping 4 bombers saves lives. 4 bombs that don't hit the airfield. 4 explosions that don't kill engineers. Smith pushes the throttle forward. The engines respond. The fuel flow increases. Range 5 miles. 4 miles. 3 miles. Porter's voice is steady. Target is steady. No evasive action. He doesn't know we're here. Smith checks his fuel gauge. 82%. The first intercept consumed 15% of his tanks, more than expected. High-speed maneuvering, tight turns, full throttle climbs, all of it burns fuel faster than cruise. He does the math again. 4 intercepts at 15% each equals 60%. Add 30% reserve for landing, that's 90% total. The tanks hold 640 gallons. 10% is 64 gallons. At combat power, that's maybe 12 minutes of flight time. Not much margin for error. Smith shoves the thought aside. Range, 2 miles. He acquires the target visually. Another Betty. Dark shape against slightly darker sky. Twin engine exhausts glowing faint orange. Smith positions the Black Widow below and behind. 400 yards. 350. He centers the target in his gun sight. His finger rests on the trigger. He fires. 2-second burst, 48 rounds, 20-millimeter high explosive shells. The Betty's right wing disintegrates. Fuel ignites. The bomber rolls inverted and dives. Smith watches it fall. The flames illuminate the clouds below. It hits the water at 0019. 19 minutes after midnight. 2 down. Smith checks his fuel gauge. 68%. Target 3 appears at 0023. Contact, bearing 035, range 8 miles, altitude 9,000 feet. Smith climbs. The P-61 ascends at 2,000 feet per minute. The engines are working hard. The fuel flow is at maximum cruise. His hands ache. The control column is heavy. No hydraulic assist, just mechanical cables and pulleys. Every input requires physical force. Smith's shoulders burn. His neck is stiff. He has been in the cockpit for 40 minutes. He will be here for at least another hour. Range, 6 miles. Porter calls out vectors. Left 10 degrees, up 500 feet. Smith adjusts. The bomber is higher than the others, 9,000 feet, closer to the cloud ceiling. Smart pilot, trying to hide in the weather, but radar sees through clouds. Range, 4 miles, 3 miles, 2 miles. Visual contact at 1 mile. This one is different. Not a Betty, a Helen. Nakajima Ki-49. Faster, better armed. The tail gunner has a 12.7 millimeter machine gun, a killing weapon. Smith approaches from below. The belly is the blind spot. Range, 500 yards, 400, 350. He fires. 3-second burst this time. 72 rounds. The Helen's right engine explodes. Black smoke pours from the cowling. The bomber rolls and spins. Smith pulls away, avoids the debris. The Helen falls through 9,000 feet, 8,000, 7,000. It hits the ocean at 0029, 29 minutes after midnight. 3 down. Smith checks his fuel gauge. 54%. The burn rate is accelerating. Each intercept is taking more fuel than the last. He is spending too much time at combat power. Porter detects target 4 at 0031. Contact! Bearing 170! Range 9 miles, altitude 4,000 feet. Smith turns south, descends. His hands are shaking, not from fear, from exhaustion. The adrenaline is worn off. Now there is only fatigue. His eyes burn. The green glow of the instruments is harsh. He blinks, refocuses. The fuel gauge reads 54%. He does the math again. One more intercept will drop him to 40%, maybe 35% if the target maneuvers. That leaves barely enough fuel to reach McGuire Field. No margin for navigation errors, no margin for headwinds, no margin for delays. He will land on fumes, or he won't land at all. Range, 7 miles. This bomber is low. 4,000 feet, almost skimming the water. Trying to avoid radar detection. Doesn't work. The SCR-720 sees everything. Range, 5 miles. 4 miles. Smith descends to 4,200 feet, slightly above the target. Altitude advantage. He can dive on the bomber, use gravity to increase speed. Range, 3 miles. Visual contact at 2 miles. Another Betty. Flying straight toward Mindoro. No evasive action. The pilot is confident, or fatalistic. Japanese bomber crews accepted death as part of the mission. They flew knowing they might not return. Smith respects that, but respect doesn't stop him from killing them. Range, 500 yards. 400. 350. He fires. 2-second burst. 48 rounds. The Betty's port wing separates from the fuselage. Fuel tanks rupture. Fire spreads instantly. The bomber rolls left and dives. It impacts the ocean at 0035. 35 minutes after midnight. 4 down. Smith checks his fuel gauge. 38%. Critical. He turns the Black Widow south, toward Mindoro, toward home. His mission is complete. 4 kills in 55 minutes. The remaining 8 Japanese bombers have turned back. The airfield is safe. But Smith's night is not over. At 0042, Porter detects a new contact. Contact, bearing 090, range 4 miles, altitude 7,000 feet. Smith's stomach drops. The contact is between him and McGuire Field. If it's a Japanese bomber heading toward the airfield, he has to engage. But his fuel gauge reads 36%. Engaging this target will drop him below 30%, below safe margins. He might not make it back. Smith checks his position. 12 miles from McGuire Field. The contact is 4 miles away. If he ignores it, the bomber might kill Americans on the ground. If he engages it, he might die trying to land. Smith makes his decision. He turns toward the contact. Porter vectors him in. Range, 3 miles, 2 miles. Visual contact at 1 mile. Smith's blood goes cold. It's not a bomber. It's a Nakajima Ki-84. Frank, a fighter, one of the best Japanese aircraft in the war, faster than the P-61, more maneuverable. 4 machine guns, 2 cannons. In daylight, a skilled Frank pilot could outfight a Black Widow. But this is not daylight, and the Frank has no radar. Smith positions below and behind. The pilot doesn't see him. Range, 500 yards. 400. 300. Smith fires. 3-second burst, 72 rounds. The Frank's tail disintegrates. The engine explodes. The fighter rolls and dives. At 3,000 feet, the pilot ejects. White parachute blooms in the darkness. The Frank hits the water at 0046. 46 minutes after midnight. 5 kills. Smith checks his fuel gauge. 15%. 60 gallons remaining. McGuire Field is 11 miles south. At cruise speed, he has 18 minutes of fuel. Enough. Barely. 34 hours. 34 minutes after midnight. Smith turns the P-61 south, heading 180 degrees. Back toward Mindoro. Back toward McGuire Field. Back toward safety. 4 bombers destroyed. 4 kill confirmations. No American casualties. The mission is a success. But the fuel gauge tells a different story. 130 gallons remaining. Smith does the math. McGuire Field is 18 miles south. At cruise speed, the P-61 burns 120 gallons per hour. That's 2 gallons per mile. 18 miles, 36 gallons of fuel required. He has 130 gallons. Enough for a safe landing. Enough to taxi to the parking area. Enough to shut down the engines and walk away, alive. Smith's hands are steady on the controls. His breathing is even, but his body is exhausted. 55 minutes of combat flying. 4 high-speed intercepts. 4 kills. The G-forces, the tension, the constant scanning of instruments. Every muscle aches. Behind him, Porter is quiet, watching his scope. The green sweep line rotates, searching for threats. The sky is empty. The remaining Japanese bombers have turned back. They detected the intercepts, saw their squadron mates burning, decided survival was more important than mission completion. They were right. Smith checks his altitude, 10,000 feet. He begins a gentle descent, reducing power, saving fuel. The fuel gauge reads 125 gallons. McGuire Field is 15 miles ahead. The runway lights should be visible soon. Dim kerosene lamps arranged in a line. Smith's eyes scan the darkness ahead. Nothing yet. Then, Porter's voice, sharp. "Contact, bearing 090, range 4 miles, altitude 7,000 feet. Smith's jaw tightens. "Confirm. Single aircraft?" "Affirmative. Fast mover, heading north." North? Away from Mindoro. Not a bomber heading toward the airfields. A fighter. Probably a patrol aircraft. Hunting for the night fighter that killed 4 bombers. Smith calculates the geometry. The contact is between him and McGuire Field. If he continues south, they will pass within 2 miles of each other. Close enough for the Japanese pilot to spot the P-61's exhaust flames. Close enough for an engagement. Smith has 2 choices. Option 1. Disengage. Turn west, avoid the contact, circle around, land safely, go home. Option 2. Engage. Intercept the fighter. Burn fuel in a high-speed pursuit. Risk running out of gas before reaching McGuire Field. Smith checks the fuel gauge again. 120 gallons. An intercept will cost 30 gallons, minimum. That leaves 90 gallons, barely enough to reach the airfield. No margin for error, no second chances. If the engagement takes longer than expected, if he misses, if the target maneuvers, if he has to make multiple passes, he won't make it home. He will ditch in the ocean. At night, in total darkness. No visual references. No way to judge altitude. The P-61 will hit the water at 200 knots. The impact will kill him instantly. Smith's hand rests on the throttle. He thinks about the engineers sleeping in tents below. They are safe tonight because he killed 4 bombers. They will wake up tomorrow and continue building the airfield. The invasion of Luzon will proceed on schedule. His mission is complete. But the Japanese fighter is still out there, hunting, looking for targets. If Smith disengages, the fighter might find a transport aircraft, or a patrol bomber, or a reconnaissance plane. Someone else will die. Smith makes his decision. Turning to intercept. Porter doesn't argue. He adjusts the radar gain, locks onto the contact. Range 3 miles. Target is fast. Estimate 300 knots. 300 knots. Faster than the bombers. A Ki-84 Hayate. The Americans call it Frank. Single-engine fighter. 4 machine guns, 2 cannons. Maximum speed, 390 miles per hour. Faster than the P-61 in level flight. More maneuverable. Better rate of climb. In daylight, a skilled Frank pilot can outfight a Black Widow. But this is not daylight. Smith pushes the throttles forward. Manifold pressure climbs to 50 inches. The engines scream. The airspeed increases. 240 knots, 280, 320. The fuel flow jumps to 210 gallons per hour. The fuel gauge drops. 115 gallons, 110, 105. Range 2 miles. Smith climbs to 7,000 feet, matching the target's altitude. Range 1 mile. Target is turning. He may have spotted us. The Frank pilot is good. He senses something, begins evasive maneuvers, turning left, then right, changing altitude, climbing 200 feet, descending 300. Porter compensates, predicting movements, calling corrections. Left 10 degrees. Climb to 7,200. Smith follows. The P-61 is less agile than the Frank, but Smith has one advantage. He can see the Frank on radar. The Frank pilot is flying blind. Range 800 yards. Smith spots the exhaust flame, a single orange glow. The Frank's engine, smaller than the bomber's, harder to hit. Range 600 yards. Target is turning right. Smith follows. The Frank completes the turn, rolls level. Range 500 yards. Smith positions the P-61 below and behind. The Frank is 40 yards ahead, slightly above. He centers the target in the gun sight. Then, the Frank's tail gunner opens fire. Wait, no. The Frank doesn't have a tail gunner. Smith realizes his mistake. The Frank pilot has spotted him, is firing his cannon. Tracers stream past the P-61's canopy, red lines in the darkness. Smith brakes left, hard. The G-forces press him into the seat. 4 Gs, 5 Gs. The tracers miss. Smith rolls right, reverses, pulls back on the stick. The P-61 climbs. The Frank tries to follow, but the P-61 has more power. Smith loops over the top. Inverted, the world spins. He rolls upright. Now he is behind the Frank. Range 400 yards. The Frank dives. Smith follows. They are descending rapidly. 7,000 feet, 6,000, 5,000. Smith closes the distance. 350 yards. He centers the Frank in the gun sight. Fires. 2-second burst, 48 rounds. The 20-millimeter shells tear through the Frank's tail section. The rudder disintegrates. The elevator shreds. The Frank rolls right, out of control. The engine catches fire. Black smoke pours from the cowling. At 4,000 feet, the pilot ejects. Smith sees the parachute open, a white canopy against black sky. The Frank continues its dive, hits the water at 3,000 feet. The explosion is brief, then darkness. Smith levels off at 5,000 feet. His heart is pounding. His hands are shaking. He checks the fuel gauge. 70 gallons. His stomach drops. 70 gallons. The intercept burned 50 gallons, not 30. The dogfight, the hard maneuvering, full throttle throughout. McGuire Field is 11 miles south. At cruise speed, he needs 22 gallons to reach the runway. That leaves 48 gallons. In theory, enough, but any headwind will increase fuel consumption. Any navigation error will add distance. Any delay in the landing pattern will drain the tanks. Smith reduces power to minimum. 20 inches manifold pressure, 1,800 RPM. The fuel flow drops to 80 gallons per hour. But the damage is done. Porter's voice is quiet. McGuire Field, 12 miles. You should see the light soon. Smith stares into the darkness, searching. His tanks are empty. His ammunition is low. His body is exhausted. But he has 5 kills. 5 aircraft destroyed in one night. More than any American night fighter pilot in history. If he makes it home. Smith turns the Black Widow south, heading 180 degrees toward Mindoro, toward home. His fuel gauge reads 15%, 60 gallons. At cruise power, 18 minutes of flight time. McGuire Field is 11 miles away. At 280 miles per hour, that's 2.3 minutes of flying. The math works. Barely. But Smith knows the real danger isn't the distance, it's the landing. McGuire Field is primitive, A dirt strip carved out of jungle 4 days ago. No instrument landing system, no approach lights. Just 12 kerosene lamps arranged in a line marking the runway. From 5 miles out, those lamps look like dim yellow dots, easy to miss. From 10 miles out, in total darkness? Impossible. Porter's voice crackles through the intercom. "Mindoro coastline on the scope. 12 miles." Smith descends to 2,000 feet, reduces power. The fuel gauge ticks down. 14%. 13%. Every adjustment costs fuel. Every correction burns seconds of flight time. His hands are cramped. His back aches. 58 minutes in the cockpit. 5 intercepts. 5 kills. He is exhausted. But he cannot rest yet. At 0052, Smith spots the runway lights. 12 faint yellow dots in the blackness, 5 miles ahead. Relief floods through him. He enters the landing pattern at 1,000 feet. His fuel gauge reads 11%, 57 gallons. 12 minutes remaining. More than enough. He extends the landing gear. 3 green lights confirm all wheels are down and locked. The P-61's airspeed drops to 140 knots. Smith turns onto the base leg. Then, final approach. The runway is directly ahead. 3 miles. 2 miles. His fuel gauge reads 9%, 46 gallons. 8 minutes. Still enough. Smith extends full flaps. The airspeed decreases to 110 knots. He is lined up perfectly. The runway lights are clear. The approach is stable. 1 mile from touchdown. Then, the lights go out. All 12 lamps. Extinguished simultaneously. Total darkness. Smith's heart slams against his ribs. He is at 800 feet altitude, descending at 400 feet per minute. Airspeed 110 knots. Without runway lights, he has no visual reference for landing. No way to judge his height above the ground. No way to see the runway threshold. The P-61 will hit the dirt before he realizes how low he is. Porter's voice is urgent. "Lights are out. Recommend using radar altimeter." Smith nods. His throat is dry. The radar altimeter is a small instrument on the left side of the panel. It measures height above ground by bouncing radio waves off the surface. Accurate to within 50 feet, in theory. Smith has never landed using only the radar altimeter. No one has. It's an emergency procedure. Last resort. But he has no other choice. His fuel gauge reads 8%, 41 gallons. 7 minutes. Not enough to divert to another airfield. Tacloban on Leyte is 90 miles northeast. He would run out of fuel 40 miles short. He must land at McGuire Field, in total darkness, or die trying. Smith holds his altitude at 800 feet, circles the invisible runway. He needs to line up perfectly. Any navigation error means landing in jungle, or coral reefs, or construction equipment. He uses compass heading. The runway runs north-south. He approaches from the north, heading 180 degrees. The artificial horizon shows his wings level. The airspeed is steady at 110 knots. He begins his descent. The radar altimeter reads 750 feet. 700. 650. Smith's hands grip the control column, white knuckles inside his gloves. 600 feet. 550. The darkness outside the canopy is absolute. No ground, No horizon, no reference, just the instruments. 500 feet, 450. His fuel gauge reads 7%, 36 gallons, 5 minutes. He is committed now. 400 feet, 350. The descent rate is 400 feet per minute. Too fast for a normal landing, but he needs to reach the ground before his fuel runs out. 300 feet, 250. Smith reduces power slightly. The descent rate increases to 500 feet per minute. 200 feet, 150. His heart is hammering. Porter is silent. There is nothing more he can do. This is Smith's landing, Smith's decision, Smith's life. 100 feet, 75. Smith cannot see the ground, cannot see the runway, cannot see anything. 50 feet. He prepares for impact. 25 feet. His left hand hovers over the throttles, ready to abort, ready to pull up. But there is nowhere to go. No fuel for a second attempt. 10 feet. Smith closes his eyes. 5 feet. The wheels hit crushed coral. The impact is harder than any landing he has ever made. The entire airframe shudders. Smith's teeth slam together. But the landing gear holds. The nose wheel touches down 3 seconds later. Smith applies brakes. The Black Widow decelerates. 100 knots. 80. 60. 40. 20 knots. Smith cannot see where he is on the runway. He keeps the brakes applied until the P-61 stops completely. Silence. His fuel gauge reads 6%, 29 gallons, 3 minutes of fuel remaining. Smith sits in the cockpit. His hands are shaking. His breathing is ragged. He hears footsteps, voices shouting, ground crew with flashlights. They guide him to the parking area. Smith shuts down the engines. The propellers wind down. The instruments go dark. He climbs out of the cockpit. His legs are stiff. His entire body aches. Porter emerges from the radar compartment. His face is pale. He says nothing. There is nothing to say. Intelligence officers arrive. They want details. Smith gives them. 4 Mitsubishi G4M bombers, 1 Nakajima Ki-49 bomber, 1 Nakajima Ki-84 fighter, 5 kills, 80 minutes of combat, 1 blind landing. The highest single-night total for any American night fighter pilot in the Pacific Theater. Dawn breaks at 06:15. Smith stands on the edge of the runway, watching the sun rise over the ocean. The sky is orange, pink, purple, beautiful. Out on the water, wreckage floats, pieces of wing, tail sections, oil slicks. 5 aircraft, 5 crews. Dead because Smith could see in the dark. The Japanese thought darkness was their armor. They were wrong. The era of visual combat is over. The era of electronic warfare has begun. Radar, guided missiles, infrared sensors. The technology will only improve. The killings will only become more efficient. Smith turns away from the ocean, walks back toward the barracks. He needs sleep. Tonight, he will fly again. The war continues, and the Black Widow is hungry.